Mr. Fromm said to me that night, he said, "Chaplain, this is not a health care program." And I said, "Ken, I understand that that everybody's going to be taken care of, that they'll get the medical services they need." He said, "Chaplain, this is the final control." Folks, please catch this. He said to me, he said, "Chaplain, this is the final control of the American people." Basically what he was saying is this is the last straw. This is the final factor in total control of everything in the United States of America. And he went on that night to tell me a lot of things that were in that bill. He even mentioned handguns being in the bill, and most folks haven't even recognized until the last 2 or 3 weeks that this handgun thing has come up. That there was even any mention in the health care bill to guns.
Yeah.
But it's actually that Fromm knew it way back then.
Wow.
He told me about what they were going to do to the senior citizens. He told me about the control factors. Well, all right, let's just bring it down to where we are tonight, because, Jeff, I've had the privilege of being on your show so many times, and your people know me, but I know I have a lot of new faces out there tonight.
We always do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Many years ago, I'd been the pastor of a church for a number of years, and I was actually invited to be the chaplain to the elite of the world. How in the world an insignificant person such as me ever received such an invitation, I don't know, except by the providence of God. And for 3 years' time, I lived with the people that you hear about in the World Bank, the IMF, and the top oil company officials of the world during the years of the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline, and that was 37 years ago. I kept in touch with many of these people over the years, and whenever they are willing to, they tell me things that they have planned behind closed doors, and never one time in 37 years has anything failed to happen exactly as they have told me. So I was on the phone with Mr. Fromm before he passed away, and he basically said everything that was in this health care bill. So I'd like to bring you up to date to what has happened in the past week and a half that has so startled me.
It's a shocker.
Tonight, I'm amazed.
Yep. Go ahead.
Dr. Holman is a doctor in Lisle, Washington, a very prominent doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He has been a doctor for approximately 20 years. His secretary and office manager has been with him approximately 15 years. Dr. Holman, I know him well. I've been in his home. He has given us medical services when we were in Washington and Oregon. And about a week and a half ago, I was in touch with the Holmans, and here's what happened. Approximately a week and a half ago, every doctor in the United States of America received their first Obamacare packet. Now, there's a lot more to this than what they've already received, but they received their original instructions, introduction, and when Dr. Holman received it, his secretary was the first one to get it in the mail. So she went through it, read it from end to end, and went to Dr. Holman and said, "I'm going to have to resign. I can't do this. This is against my principles." And she said, "I will not be able to fill out this paperwork. I'm resigning." Well, Dr. Holman was rather startled, but he didn't know what to do. Now, at this point, please bear with me long enough. All of you out there know that I've been a minister of the gospel for 55 years, so I'll have to bring a little of this in, even though this is a secular program. Dr. Holman is a very devout Christian. He believes the Bible and practices it in his home and in his office. And likewise, his secretary is. And she read some things there that she couldn't do. She gave the paperwork to Dr. Holman. He took it home, looked it over, came back to his office, and last week he closed his practice. 20 years. 15 years his secretary had been with him. If you go to Lisle, Washington today and look to Dr. Holman's on his office, you will see a closed sign. He has quit the medical profession. profession. And this is a man with 6 children. He can't afford to do this.
Mm-hmm. Should have put up a sign that said closed due to Obamacare, but
yes.
It's closed.
I was so startled until I got in touch with the Holmans. My wife talked with them at length on the phone. I talked to him last night. I had to go further. Now, you will recognize the name of the next doctor. Now, folks, I'm giving you names and places. You can go find them. Dr. David Janda. Now, Dr. David Janda is not a novice. He is a very respected, one of the outstanding doctors of the Middle West. And Dr. Janda is so prominent as a physician of over 20 years, so I understand, that Congress actually invited him to speak before Congress at the time that the health care bill was being considered, and he spoke before Congress on behalf of the doctors in relation to the health care bill. Well, when I heard what had happened to Dr. Holman, I got in touch with Dr. Janda. And basically, this is what he said. He said, Chaplain, I have already sold my office building. Yeah, you heard correctly. I have sold my office building. He said, I have notified the local hospital.
Wow.
And now, he's a doctor that operates on a regular basis in the hospital. He said, I have notified the local hospital as of the date that I will be closing my practice. Now, if you want to know who Dr. Janda is, go on the web, Janda. He has a radio broadcast. I've been on it many times. You can look it up and prove what I'm saying. He is quitting. He no longer will be in medicine, and he has much to lose. A very prominent practicing doctor.
So, folks, and these are just what Lindsay's heard about. I'm sure that there are probably going to be hundreds, maybe thousands of examples of this in the months ahead. The system is designed to do what it's doing. Destroy the middle class and put everybody under the heel of the boot. And it is succeeding so far.
I had a phone call from Anita. Now, Anita won't mean anything to you. She's not a doctor, but a very, very close friend of ours in Oregon. We were in their home last summer.
Mm-hmm.
She had just been on the phone with a very close friend of hers who is a brain surgeon. A very prominent brain surgeon, by the way, in Washington, the Oregon area of the Northwest. The brain surgeon had likewise just gotten his material from the federal government in relation to Obamacare. And he said, Anita, if I am required to follow the guidelines of Obamacare in a surgery that I do on the brain, he said, now, you have to understand that this is very meticulous. He said, instantaneous decisions must be made. He said, I don't have time to ask someone else's opinion. And he said, as a brain surgeon, and a very prominent one, by the way, whose name I'm not allowed to give out, he said, if I am required to follow the guidelines of Obamacare, he said 50% of my patients will die on the operating table. I was appalled. I am still
incredible.
Almost stunned.
Yep.
He said, I do not have a fraction of a second sometimes in order to make a decision as to what to do in a person's brain when I'm operating. Now, this goes back to something. You remember a moment ago I mentioned Dr. David Janda and how prominent he is. Dr. Janda, a number of months ago, and I were on the phone privately talking, and he also sent me a picture of it. When he spoke before Congress on behalf of whether the doctors wanted Obamacare or not and the Americans, he was one of the first doctors in America ever given a little thing about the size of a cell phone. In fact, it looked like a cell phone from the picture that I could see. And every doctor in America will have one of these by the first day of next year. And what the doctors are required to do, according to Obamacare, is you go to a doctor, your doctor makes all the tests necessary, gives a diagnosis of what he thinks is wrong with you. they are required to put in a code or something into this little gadget. It will instantaneously go into a bank somewhere. I would imagine it's a computer bank. And within a matter of moments, that little thing is supposed to reply to the doctor as to what procedure will be allowed by Obamacare according to their dictates. The doctor will have no choice. He only makes the diagnosis. They come back and tell the doctor what drugs he must use, what procedure he must follow, everything he has to do. Instantaneously it'll go there and back, probably all computerized. Dr. Janda said to me, he said, Lindsay, when I appeared before Congress, and by the way, look on YouTube and you'll find Dr. Janda explaining this. Mm-hmm. It's in our new DVD series, the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. You'll see his DVD there and hear his entire story. And he said, Lindsay, when I spoke before Congress, I asked them, he said, first of all, my patients come first. He said, my patients are my life. And he said, I will do nothing contrary to what I think is right for my patients.